Hey everyone, CWD Reviews here. I am CWD, and this is going to be a review of the new Porches album, Pool. Porches are a indie New York project fronted by Mr. Aaron Maine, and this is, I believe, their sophomore full-length album. Now, on their previous album, they were doing this indie rock and indie folk thing that seemed to, from what I understand, work pretty well for them, pretty decently for them. And now they've decided to all of a sudden switch out of nowhere their sound. They are now doing synth pop. I'm a casual appreciator of synth pop. One of my favorite albums of last year was Tame Impala's Currents, even though that's, to me, was more of a psychedelic album, a neo-psychedelia album that was then funneled by this hybrid of synth pop, funk, disco, maybe a little bit of R&B, and there was the new Neon Indian album that came out last year that was kind of the same thing, but went into a more synth-funk and chill-wave direction. I'm definitely intrigued with synth pop to a certain degree. I think that any genre of music that can reinnovate, revigorate, has the potential of wowing me and potentially making me a fan, especially now that I am a fan of Neon Indian, and my fandom of Tame Impala has become more solidified with Currents. But with Porches doing this, I can't say they're doing any of the things I've listed. This album was actually relatively boring, actually. Now, this album's about 12 tracks long, so it's like close to 40 minutes. So on the surface, it doesn't look like it's overstaying its welcome, but given how these tracks feel so underdeveloped, I can't help but feel like they try to stretch this out to longer than it really kind of needs to be. Take the opening track, Underwater, for example. There's like this really vibrating and fluctuating like synth pattern that sounds watery, but it just kind of gets stale and kind of bland over the course of a minute as you realize that there's not that much in terms of progression. If this composition was playing by itself, this wouldn't be that interesting, nor should it be like 4 minutes in length. There's the track Car, which doesn't go into a synth pop direction at all. It's actually just them going back into their indie rock phase. It doesn't do anything exciting up until like the latter half where it builds really well, but kind of too little too late for me. Tracks like Mood and even The Shadow and other tracks like that honestly, all these tracks are so skeletal. Most of these tracks are so skeletal and so boring that they just serve the purpose of just setting a sad atmosphere and not just making actual songs. Yeah, they're songs and that they have like structure, but that's it. That's the bare minimum of these tracks, really. And there are tracks like even The Shadow that try to do something a little different. It's pretty much too little too late. With even The Shadow, there's like this really awkward piano or organ that like comes up and it just is played so sloppily and so awkwardly that it just has no place on the track whatsoever. And then there's the song Shape, which has like these really shaky and varying and kind of off-kilter synthy. It's interesting at first, but then you realize that that's pretty much all the track is going for until, again, the latter half of the track, more synths are added, and you're kind of just wondering why this didn't come in earlier when it needed to. But I think the worst part of this album, the worst thing about this album pretty much, are the vocals. Now, Aaron Maine, he may be a decent enough singer, but what he's trying to go for is this Morrissey, Chris Martin, Robert Smith hybrid that just doesn't sound all that flattering for how limited his vocal capabilities are. Tracks like Hour and Shaver may have like decent vocal melodies, but it sucks. They're hearing his voice. It just gets to the point where it's just nothing but another element of the album that I don't enjoy whatsoever. Especially when he's like adding auto-tune in tracks like Pool and Security. And it's just auto-tune from beginning to end. I mean, Underwater had like auto-tune on the hooks, which was tolerable, but when he's using auto-tune like from beginning to end for no apparent reason whatsoever, it just, it gets grating. I don't like it. So, yeah. Hey, Shannon! Give me a Shannon! But yeah, it gets grating, but there are occasionally some tracks that I certainly enjoy. It's just that they're not that great, that's to save the album. like the track Hour, which while it does have, again, one of the better vocal melodies on the entire album, it also has like these really cavernous beats and synths that are really dancey and really ear-grabbing that I like. And there's the song Shaver that, again, has one of the better vocal melodies and this really off-kilter saxophone solo that I enjoy a lot. Most certainly. Yeah, Shaver and Hour are the only tracks I care for a lot. I guess I like Car too, since it breaks the monotony of the synth-driven sound that it was going for the past, few tracks. But, unfortunately, that's really it. This was just a really boring project. This album actually reminds me of John Frusciante to record Only Water for 10 days. Except that I actually like that album. That album was more stripped back and more off-kilter and interesting instrumentals. But this one, maybe it adds more instrumentation. Maybe it's cleaner in production, but there's just nothing that's as interesting. So overall, yeah, I didn't care much for this album. What do you think of the album, Zelda? What do you think of it? I can't really see myself looking forward to what Porches is doing next if they're going to do a synth pop thing. But I think if they are going to go into a synth pop direction, what they need to do is look at the tracks on this album, find the ones that are the most interesting, and just start writing songs based on that. Maybe not write exact copies, but just realize that they need to break this monotony of just this really somber and melancholy sound that's only somber and melancholy in label alone. This album is a negative 1.1 out of plus 3. Yeah, just disappointed with this album. I don't know why Pitchfork gave this best new music, but if you've given this album a listen, what'd you think of it? Did you like this album? Did you dislike this album? What was your reasoning behind that? What should me and Zelda consider reviewing next? What do you want to review, Zelda? What do you want to review? The CWD Reviews here, signing off.